Are you a first responder, a veteran, a doctor, a nurse, a teacher, or a Let's Go Blues radio listener? Of course you are. If you're in the market to buy or sell a home, call real estate superstar Mike Burgoyne today at 314-753-4060 or email him at mike@strikewithmike.com to earn special rates today.
All right, let's get out of here. And find something good.
Does the moon actually possess such strange powers? Or is it all just lunacy?
Nah.
I'm sorry I went to Mars for a second, but I'm back now and I got t-shirts for everybody.
Good, but no.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2
Nope.
and 3 and...
Get ready to hear some noise tonight!
Absolutely not.
Too late.
Oh, yeah.
Eat this.
Let's do this. You made it. You're here. Let's Go Blues Radio welcomes you. We are the original and longest-running blues hockey podcast. This is episode number 39 of season 14 and the 520th episode of all time. Support for Let's Go Blues Radio is, of course, brought to you by Mike Burgoyne of Real Brokerage Realty. Check out strikewithmike.com and get started selling your current home or buying a new home today. That is strikewithmike.com. On today's show, we welcome Stephen Hoffner, the director, producer, shooter, and editor of The Cannons Brothers on Ice documentary. This documentary follows the longest-serving minority hockey program in North America, the Fort DuPont Hockey Cannons in Washington, D.C. It focuses on two teenage boys and their legendary coach, Neal Henderson, as well as their families and teammates over one season. Obvious ties for this go into the city of St. Louis because this is I guess, the lower economic area of Washington, D.C., and it just kind of goes to show, like, that, you know, you can bring everybody together, obviously in different ways, but how hockey can do this. If you're wanting to watch the documentary, it is out now. It's available periodically on NHL Network. So if you have NHL Network, make sure you just kind of, I guess, go through your guide to find out when it'll air. But we are, and I say this and I mean this, we are working to get it available to St. Louis area people on a streaming basis, or maybe even shown somewhere, maybe... was it FanDuel Sports Network now? I don't know. But this is an excellent documentary, and I think it's something that people need to see. So I'm all for trying to get this thing out a little bit more. It's an incredible story about racial tension and how hockey's brought the community together in this area. But I won't say any more. We actually, as they say on the late-night talk shows, we've got a clip.
It all began in a driveway with his son and a few neighborhood kids.
Now, the longest-running minority hockey program in North America.
In one of Washington, D.C.'s poorest neighborhoods, it's changing lives.
I have a saying, when I look in the mirror, I say, what can I do to help somebody today? Welcome to Fort DuPont Hockey. I guarantee you there's no other hockey club like Fort DuPont. I don't care what color you are. I'm like the puck. Puck don't care who hits it. I want to see you crack that ice.
I'm trying to save you from going through what I went through. System ain't set up for us to win.
What do you think about me being police cadet?
If you like it, I love it.
My goals at school, it's a lot of them.
I sent off your stuff for Johnson & Wales. The Capitals have a scholarship that I want you to do.
The reason I chose hockey over other sports is because many black folks tried nothing different.
We've been through a life-changing experience. We've been homeless. I shelter my boys. I have to, because if I don't, the streets going to take them, and I'm not going to allow the streets to take my sons.
Yeah!
have to keep your grade average up. Because I ain't got no money. I'm a poor black lady struggling.
You know, coach is not coming, right? Yeah, his wife in the hospital.
You need to pass these other classes to graduate.
The hydro man came and turned off our lights.
We got to wait on x-rays and all of that.
There's no opportunities here in this neighborhood. We live in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital.
I want to talk to you about our opponent, okay? Hockey in Newark, these guys getting better every year. This is a high school team you're facing. We have to protect the house. 1, 2, 3, Cannons!
To be honest, what this team mean to me, it's like another family away from your actual family.
We have a troubled world today, and I hope we can all stop for a second and realize the values that we do have. The American dream belongs to everyone.
So again, we'll be bringing that interview to you after this commercial break coming up here in a minute, but there are some obvious adjacencies to anyone who lives in the St. Louis area. And even if you don't live in St. Louis, I mean, this is an excellent documentary, very well done. And, you know, if you have a maybe your mate, maybe your roommate, maybe your spouse is not a big hockey fan, this is something you can watch if you're not even a hockey fan. It's a very inspiring story about somebody who took it upon himself to bring together a community and get kids off the streets. And, you know, they even say in the documentary, not to give anything too much away, that, you know, a lot of these kids would not have graduated high school, would not have continued school, would have dropped out, would have possibly been, they even say, dead. And hockey saved them. So, and this coach, Neal Henderson, is a savior for a lot of these kids. So, it's just an incredible story, and I can't wait for you all to check out my interview with Stephen, as well as check out the documentary and the podcast as well. There is a podcast available that you can also check out. Real quick, I do want to mention the Stanley Ponder Cup Memorial Tournament. Sign-ups are still underway at this point. Remember, it is on November 22nd, 2025, starting at 11 o'clock, going until about 10:30-ish that night. It is at Midwest Sport Hockey in Baldwin, Missouri. So if you're unfamiliar with the St. Louis area, it is a suburb of St. Louis. It benefits the NMDP, which is the National Marrow Donor Program, formerly Be the Match. No idea why they changed it. And the player fee is $60 to get in. You do get a very awesome jersey if you play as well. This is, again, just a tournament very near and dear to my heart. Obviously, it's named after my father. But, yeah, it's something that I take very seriously. I have a lot of fun with. And I will say, if you watch our live shows, Joe Schmo, a gentleman who chimes in a lot during our live shows, he officially signed up, and he said he's going to have to learn how to stop before he comes on the rink with us. So, again, goes to show we accept people of all skill levels. Right now, we've only got a couple of spots left. We've actually filled up very quickly, quicker than usual. I think right now we're at 14 spots left. Obviously, if that does fill up, I still recommend people sign up for the wait list because we do usually get at least one or two people that have to drop before the tournament starts. So, yeah, definitely check that out. Stanley Ponder Cup Memorial Tournament. You can go over to dropinstl.com to go ahead and sign up. That is dropinstl.com, obviously all one word. Well, we're going to take our quick break, and when you hear on the other side, you're going to hear Stephen Hoffner talking about the Cannons, Brothers on Ice.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
As a hockey player, Mike Burgoyne knows a thing or two about making the perfect play. And when it comes to real estate, he's always ready to score the winning goal for his clients. If you're a first responder, a veteran, a doctor, a nurse, a teacher, or a Let's Go Blues radio listener looking to score the home of your dreams, you'll receive special rates with Mike. Go ahead, shoot some questions his way, and he'll have the answer quicker than Curtis Joseph on a breakaway.
Curtis Joseph got the paddle down.
Any barriers? Mike will mow them down like Chris Pronger in front of the net. He'll score you your dream home or sell your existing home faster than a Brett Hall one-timer.
Flip past the Hall. He shoots. He scores!
See Burgoyne's real estate prowess in action today by emailing him at mike@strikewithmike.com or by calling 314-753-4060. That email again is mike@strikewithmike.com, and that phone number is 314-753-4060. Getting Mike Burgoyne on your team will be the boost your power play needs.
Attention pickleball players. 6-0 Pickleball is an industry leader in high-end pickleball paddles. From the Paddle of the Year Double Black Diamond to the Kevlar-faced Ruby paddles, 6-0 has the perfect paddle to take your game to the next level. And while I have your attention, consider upgrading your pickleball bag to the highly touted Pro Tour bag or the Performance Backpack in some fantastic colors. 6-0 is also your place to stock up on paddle grips and edge guards. 6-0 has everything you need to elevate your game. And as long as you're playing well, you might as well look good too with 6-0's performance shirts, hats, and arm sleeves. Use discount code CPRICE10 for 10% off your entire purchase at 60pickleball.com. That's CPRICE10. Don't you dare get stuck on the court with inferior equipment. Go next level with 6-0.
We already know that you love hockey, and you obviously already love the Let's Go Blues radio podcast, but what about filling the gap between weekly Let's Go Blues radio episodes? That's where the LGB Minute comes in. Hosted by Jeff Ponder, the LGB Minute is an entertaining, down and dirty 5-minute St. Louis Blues podcast released multiple times a week to keep you informed of all things St. Louis Blues. So make sure to subscribe to the LGB Minute anywhere you listen to podcasts. Like right now. Do it now. Just click subscribe. It's easy. For the love of God, please.
And now, back to Let's Go Blues Radio, the longest running St. Louis Blues podcast with Price, Ponder, and Day.
And we are back from break, and I am with Stephen Hoffner. He is the director, producer, shooter, and editor of The Cannons, Brothers on Ice documentary. There's a couple other documentaries he's worked on that we will definitely be speaking about as well. But Stephen, I wanted to thank you for taking time to join the show and talk to Blues fans about this amazing documentary that you have shot over the last couple of years. So again, thank you for joining the show.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. It's always awesome to chat about this crazy experience that we had in making this film and finally being able to share it with America.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of connections here. I think with the St. Louis area, there's a lot of grassroots campaigns that are getting started around here that deal with trying to get inner city youth involved in hockey because it's such a good team sport for people to learn from, as we will talk about. But we'll get to that in a minute. A couple questions I wanted to have for you in general. First of all, I know you said you're from Toronto, so are you a big Maple Leafs fan?
Yeah, unfortunately,
unfortunately,
I am. It's been a hard few, 50 years, but it's one of those things that you just kind of got to get over as a Leafs fan, and an expected disappointment come playoff time.
Hey, I'll tell you, before 2019, that was every single Blues fan. So I would talk to fans from Toronto all the time, and they'd be like, yeah, we haven't won since 67. I'm like, well, at least you can say you've won a championship. So, now the Blues have finally gotten over the hump. And I keep saying now, especially with the guy that brought the Blues to the championship, Craig Berube behind the bench, maybe Toronto's time is coming.
Yeah, he's hard on these guys. He has accountability. But at the end of the day, you've got to have your main guys produce. And unfortunately, we just haven't been able to get that core four going. And everyone wants to blame Mitch Marner, but I think Marner's an unbelievable player. And I think he's going to probably win a cup in Vegas in the next 5 years. And it's going to look just like the Leafs did with Bill Kessel and all these other guys who bailed and won a cup, like Kadri. Don't get me started.
I was gonna say, I'm like, the list just keeps going, right? Again, that was the Blues. Brendan Shanahan, Brett Hall. I mean, the names just Chris Pronger. The names just go on and on and on of players that left and won a cup. And Doug Waite, and it was just like, oh my God, like this keeps happening. But again, when you finally witness your team win the cup, it is There's nothing like it. And for fans like us, it was probably even more wonderful because it was just finally getting over that hump was an achievement in its own, and being able to witness it in your lifetime. I really do. I do hope I sound sincere when I say I do hope that happens for Toronto fans.
I appreciate that, man. Hopefully they don't face the Blues in the final that year. So you won't have to.
Yeah, because then I'm about to root against you. So
Yeah, exactly.
well, Steven, again, we've talked about you directed, produced, shot, and edited this entire documentary. You've done other things for the NHL and the NHL Network. Behind the Stripes was a documentary that you've done in the past. What can you tell me about Behind the Stripes?
Well, Behind the Stripes came out right before HBO came out with their cutting edge, 24/7 series with the NHL. And of course, all access stuff that we're very used to now, Road to the Winter Classic, and obviously now with the new Amazon Prime series. But that documentary was, I think, a stepping stone to what we saw moving forward in the NHL and their, I guess, their need for an all access type of documentary. And for me at that time, I was still young. I was in my mid-20s. I was ambitious. I wanted to do this documentary. I was working with NHL hockey operations and officiating. And I knew what a great team we had on the ice with the officials, and nobody knew that. Everybody thinks the refs are all these, bunch of hooligans or guys who don't know anything. But they're amazing. They're great guys, hard workers, and I wanted to show what goes on behind the scenes. That this is a tough life. They travel almost 2/3 of the year by themselves. They don't see their families, and so I wanted to show an all access, documentary. So we mic'd up one veteran referee and one rookie referee at the time. And, I remember when we released that in 2010, it almost got blocked. It was like, whoa, we can't hear the dialogue on the ice with the ref. Like that's deception, whatever. And I'm like, well, look, the teams knew we were shooting that night. Like, don't worry. And it literally went all the way up to the commissioner to approve the video. And when we released it, it was, a lot of, positive reviews. And they released it during the Cup final that year with Philly and Chicago. And that was sort of the beginning of my career as a documentary artist. And I haven't looked back.
So, I mean, we have to talk about St. Louis native Tim Peel. What happened with him, which I always say is unfortunate because those types of conversations likely, I mean, I'm not saying that, refs are out to get teams, but I think those types of conversations of, yeah, I just want to call a penalty on this team. Like, we're all human, So, like, how much of that kind of stuff did you pick up and hear when doing this Behind the Stripes documentary?
Well, I mean, we picked up all kinds of dialogue, and some make it into the final edit and some don't. But, to your point, I mean, there's lots of dialogue that these guys have on the ice. And, Peelsy was one of the most well-liked guys. I know there was always a yearly survey with which referees were the most liked. It was always including, Wes McCauley and Kelly Sutherland, and Peelsy was always on that list. Tim, I got time for. He's a great dude. I mean, I think he was in his final year that year anyway, or his final 2 years. So, it wasn't like the end of the world for the guy. But unfortunate moment for him. But it actually happens all the time. Like the mic will go on as before they're calling the penalty or whatever, and you might hear a piece of dialogue that you're not supposed to. But hey, if you can't talk to the guys on the ice, you can't really referee, and you've got to be a good communicator. And I know Tim was, for sure.
Yep. Yeah. Agree 100%. Say what you will about Tim and his post-reffing career, but I'll say as a ref, sure, I know he was always really respected. And again, just an unfortunate moment for him. But it is fun to, and again, I'm friends with a ton of referees, guys that, do some amateur work. And they are typically some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. And they know the game too, which is really cool because for me, it's like, I'm a student of the game. I've played my whole life. I've worked in the media. I've, done some broadcasting type work. And, but it's like, they just see the game so differently. And it's so interesting to hear their perspective on what's going on out there.
Absolutely. I mean, that was my introduction to the NHL, was the NHL officials. And they're really the ones that call the game. If I remember when I started with NHL Studios, And I wanted to mic up the refs. That was one of my first, initiatives. And I remember the gentleman in charge at the time was like, "Why would you do that? Like, who cares about the refs?" I'm like, "The refs are the only ones who talk during the games. Like, the players just go, yeah, okay, oh, whoa, whatever, F this or F that." Like, that's it. And that's all you get, where the refs actually narrate the game, right? So it's very interesting.
Yep. Another documentary real quick I wanted to ask you about was NHL life and over your time working in directing and producing, you've won 7 W3 Silver Awards, which goes out to good filmmakers. So that's obviously very exciting. But yeah, tell me about NHL life.
Well, NHL Life was a really amazing series I was able to create and produce, be a part of in every sort of facet. And that was a sponsorship that we had with L'Oreal Men's Expert at the time. They funded it. And what we did was we followed a day in the life of NHL Life. So that's what it was. But it was a cross-pollination of every person that's involved in the game. So we followed a referee. We followed a player, we followed a superstar player. So some of the names that we followed were some really great people like PK Subban, who was just emerging as a star at the time. And in fact, David Backus was one of our subjects as a player. And so that was actually my first time into St. Louis, meeting David. And he's a huge animal lover and someone who's really involved in that community. He also has his pilot's license. So we hopped in a plane with him and flew around. Great guy. I can't say enough about David. I know he's retired now, so shout out if he's watching, but hopefully he remembers me. But I remember we were shooting with David, and he kept, during the interview, kept kind of cracking his neck. And then the cinematographer was like, "Is everything okay?" And David was like, "Dude, I get hit for a living. What do you want from me?" I was like, "Okay, fair enough." But yeah, that was a great series, and we were really fortunate enough to win 7 Web Awards for it, since it was they were all like 6-minute vignettes that premiered on YouTube, our NHL YouTube channel at the time, and NHL.com. And that was really the first series-based content that I was able to shoot with the NHL. And but just a fantastic opportunity to tour North America, meet these cool personalities, and yeah, like I said, my first time in good old St. Louis, which was a real thrill.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, what do you remember about our fair city, and what would ever bring you back here?
Well, I'll tell you something, and we can plug it later, but I would love to come back and show our film, the Cannons, because it hasn't had its Midwest debut yet. We'll get into it, I'm sure, later about plugging where it's playing, but I would love to come back and show the film, because as you mentioned, I think it would hit a very interesting market there, an important market towards growing the game. But yeah, I know I love St. Louis. It was cool. I mean, I'd never been to a Blues game. I had never been to just anywhere near that area. So again, it was a few years ago now, but what would bring me back hopefully would be to screen the film and talk to Blues fans about it.
Well, there you go. There's a perfect segue. Segue master, Stephen Hoffner there. So I wanted to talk to you again. Obviously, the reason you're here, The Cannons, Brothers on Ice is what this film is called.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's a feature documentary. It follows the day-to-day lives of Coach Neal Henderson and his team of young African-American hockey players in the longest-serving minority hockey program in North America, the Fort DuPont Hockey Cannons in Washington, D.C. That was not off memory. I did have to pull that off your website, but I just think it's a really interesting idea. And I wanted to ask you, what was your motivation for filming this? And what can you tell us about the Cannons, Brothers on Ice?
Wow. Well, that's a loaded question, Jeff. And I'll try to keep my answer contained, because this film became sort of a life project for me for about 4 years, actually. And so the Canon started off as just a way for me to actually tell a story that was beyond what I was used to seeing. Obviously I've seen really cool movies about other sports like Hoop Dreams. That was obviously a classic. And I was actually introduced to Coach Neal and the Washington, D.C., Fort DuPont Cannons by my friend Kevin Weeks, who's a former NHL goalie. He works for ESPN. We worked together on the NHL Network. And I was like, I read about the Cannons online. I just did some research, and I was like, hey, can you introduce me to these people? He's like, yeah. He's like, I've spoken with these guys, I've done some philanthropy. And so the Cannons are a team that is a charity club that plays in Southeast Washington, D.C. It's been run by Coach Neal, who's run this program without seeing a dime for his time and effort for over 40 years. The man has given his life to these young boys and girls. And what makes this place so special, I guess, infamously, is that it's one of the highest crime rates in all the United States. In fact, I think for violent crime, it's number one currently, unfortunately. It's a very, difficult area to grow up in, especially being young African-American. There's not a lot of opportunities for these young kids. And Coach Neal and the Cannons was a program for these kids to get off the street and get into a program that they could feel loved and wanted and learn the game. And so he was Coach Neal. If you can imagine, this man who once played professional, couldn't get to the next level because he was Black, and he wasn't allowed the opportunity to play on professional teams during his time in the past. Fortunately, those times are over, but he was able to create this club on his own dime. He brings this gear to the arena, Fort DuPont Arena, once a year, and he outfits all these young boys and girls with gear for the season for free, so that they can play. And so for me, I dipped in with my co-director AJ Messier, and we met the club, and we were just like, we spent a week there, and this is all the way back in 2017, and we were just like, this is an amazing story. We've got to do something here. And so sure enough, we had some funding to do the film. My friend AJ's best friend, Simon, was going to fund the project for a very lucrative amount that would have given us some, income over the next few years. And he was a gentleman who was underprivileged. He had, a very severe disease. And he thought, you know what, I want to show it. I want to tell a story about these kids and show that anything is possible, because this man lived beyond his years himself. And literally right before picture, he passed away. Simon did. And so we were devastated by that, obviously, with Simon's passing, but as well as the financial opportunity with the film. But me and AJ, we kind of looked at each other, and we met these families, and we made a promise that we would tell this story for them. And that we did. So we basically used our own money to fund the project. At the time, I was working with Walt Disney Company, working under the NHL banner and their NHL properties. And I decided to just do this on the side. I actually lost my job with Walt Disney Company day one of filming in Washington, D.C. So I used my severance to fund the film. That's how passionate I was about taking the next step in not only my career to tell a feature film story, but also to make sure that these voices were heard. And then over the next 2-3 years, I flew back and forth from Toronto to Washington, D.C. to tell the story. AJ would drive, 15 hours from New Hampshire, or 10 hours from New Hampshire or Toronto to get there. And so we basically made it work, and we told this story, and that was the beginning of it. Yeah.
I mean, that's an incredible story. I didn't know any of that backstory. That's fantastic. And it really does go to show, we just had on last week, we had somebody from, you might not even be aware, Alabama University, the Crimson Tide. There was a group of girls that were going to school there who were hockey players, and said, we want to start a team. So they literally went in and started their own women's team. First year, took the Hockey Division South division, and took the championship home.
Oh, amazing.
Those kinds of stories are what makes hockey fantastic. Oh, yeah. And so to hear that, that there's so much going on behind the scenes that, again, I mean, I've been a victim of layoffs myself. It devastates you, but to still be able to find that drive and get this done. And work with these people. And again, like you already were kind of involved and you were just like, I need to get this story out. That's a tremendous drive to get that done. And I'm sure the organization, the families, I'm sure they were all very appreciative and very happy to give their time for helping out with this documentary.
Oh yeah, no, I think that when you make a film like that, it's actually more than a film. In fact, I look back now and yeah, we're now on 5 different regional networks in the United States, which we can talk about later. And, here in TSN in Canada, which is our version of ESPN, which is really cool. Great exposure we've had from the film, but it's the relationships. Coach Neal is family to me. These boys, Rayvon, Rob, they're family to me. Brian King. I mean, the people that you meet when you do these type of things, it truly is the journey and not necessarily the destination. I know that's a cliche, but definitely the best experience I've ever had as a filmmaker, for sure.
So you mentioned your friend Kevin Weeks, guys like Anson Carter come to mind, Willie O'Ree, obviously the pivotal name that comes to mind in this situation. But how big of a factor was it for these young boys to kind of see, I hate to use the cliche, guys that look like them, but how much of a driving force was it for them to see, like, these guys, look at the way that they've been able to, step into the game and make a difference and make a lasting change. I mean, was that kind of a driving force for them?
It's funny you asked that, because I was always pressing a lot of racial questions with the club and the boys and Coach Neal. And to be honest, they didn't really bite to that. The people there are really just interested in looking up to just anybody that can give them education and can be a helping hand. I know those kids love Ovechkin. The Washington Capitals have done a lot of work in that community. So, they adore that club. They adore the Capitals. And I for sure. I mean, I think Coach Neal being person of color and all the coaches, for the exception of one being black, I think that certainly helps in terms of the way that they can communicate. But, I think there's one shining star that I'm sure makes a difference. And, hopefully moving forward is a gentleman by the name of Dante Abercrombie. And he was basically one of the students that Coach Neal coached many years ago. And he's now gone on to coach. He's coaching now, I think, the first HBCU college black team in the United States, in Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken. And he was working with the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's gotten some real success, and don't be surprised if he makes the NHL one day as a coach. So those type of stories, because this guy came from that neighborhood, worked under Coach Neal, and kind of get to that next level. That's the type of thing I'm sure that if I'm a 15-year-old boy or girl going, okay, like I can make it, I can, get out of this maybe scenario and learn from Coach Neal and advance my life in whatever way.
So I always say that, and obviously doing what I do here, podcasting and about hockey, it does provide like different insights from different guests I've had. And just there's always like things that I take away from every single interview, and kind of in a way like changes the course of the way I think of the sport. So after filming this documentary, I know you mentioned that like a lot of these boys and Coach Neal, like they've kind of become family to you, but like, how did your overall view of hockey kind of change after it, maybe during or after filming this documentary?
Well, I think you realize how important the game is, especially in an area like that where it's used for much more than just recreation. In Toronto, everybody plays hockey here. There's a pad pretty much everywhere around the corner. So it's sort of taken for granted. But, in Southeast DC, I'm not sure how many ice rinks there are in St. Louis, but there's not many in Washington, especially on, east of the Anacostia. So it's, there's only one rink in where these boys can play. It's Fort DuPont Arena. So, and this place where Coach Neal has coached his club, it's far more than the game. And you realize how powerful the sport can be in bringing people together. And I've had many people tell me, during the course of filming that, this club and Coach Neal saved their life. They would have been maybe shot or on the street or doing drugs or dealing drugs. The type of environment that those kids have had to grow up around, especially in the early 2000s and late 80s, early 90s, the crack epidemic. That's where it hit the hardest, was in Washington, D.C. And certainly post-COVID, DC's crime rate has also, gone kind of through the roof. So they need these type of programs. So the game itself is far more important than just shooting the puck into a net. It's in many respects life and death for a lot of these kids, and I hate to say it, I'm not even saying that with hyperbole. This is what people told me. And it's important that the game is recognized for its contributions much more than just an entertainment package.
Yep, and again, that's something I've noticed as somebody who's refed and coached in my time as well. It just takes on a different life of its own, and being able to, provide that kind of outlet, I guess, for these kids, just has to be life changing. Now, something that I've seen, if you go over to, actually, the website is thecannonsdocumentary.com. Something I saw quoted on there a few times is hockey has no color. Kind of a loaded question here, but I mean, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that was sort of a mantra that we kind of pronounced during filming. I don't even remember who said it first. It might have been me, but I think that it depends on your point of view. Some people want to lean into color. For us, we wanted to show that we're all here to do the same thing. We're all here to play the game and enjoy it. It doesn't matter what race or color or where you're from or sexuality. We all have a right to play, and we're blind to that type of color. And I think, and that's our poster is black and white, so we kind of did that purposely to kind of emphasize that point.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, obviously, these boys, they're a good team. They play against other teams in the area. Did they have to face any kind of racial discrimination against other teams? And if they did, how did they overcome it?
Yeah, so it's a loaded question, Jeff, because the team itself is it's more of a program than a competitive club. So certainly through the decades, they were more of a competitive team. They played in tournaments and such. And when we started filming, it was more of a program, and they weren't playing in like loaded tournaments. So for us, that was actually one of the storylines, is that they couldn't find games to play with other clubs because the infrastructure just really isn't available in that area for a club like that to play games. So, but yeah, I mean, during our filming, we never encountered any racism. I mean, we're also talking, only a handful of years ago. So when we began filming, but, certainly throughout the years, we heard players and testimonials you'll hear in the film, if you get to see it, the racism. They wouldn't allow a lot of the black kids to play or to even enter the arena back in the day because they just wanted to watch. It's hockey, generally speaking, has been mostly a rich man's sport, mostly a white man's sport. And, I think that Coach Neal doesn't have this attitude of like, well, you say this, I'm going to, punch you in the face. He's more like, you know what, we're going to beat him on the ice. That's what his whole mantra was. Like, they can say whatever they want, they can whatever, but we're going to hit them. We're going to bruise them, and we're going to put that puck in the net, and we're going to show them who's boss. And that's what they did. And, they won a few purple puck tournaments, which was a big thing down there back in the day. But he always took the high road. I think it's that Michelle Obama line where it's like they go low, we go high, or something like that.
Yep.
I can't. That's pretty much epitomizes Coach Neal, I think.
That's great. And the fact that you say that you didn't, at least while filming, didn't notice a lot of, racial things happening on the ice. Right. Hey, that's a great thing. That is excellent to hear, because that was not the case even 20 years ago. I mean, there was I want to say it was Anson Carter. It might have been Mike Greer. I can't remember, but I remember there was a situation where there was racial slurs being thrown at him on the ice. And it's just, that should not be happening. And to hear that they're not dealing with that, that is a very positive step in hockey.
Well, Kevin Weeks, famously was, starting with the Carolina Hurricanes in the playoffs. I believe it was 2002, if I'm not mistaken, or around that time. And someone threw a banana peel on the ice. This was in Montreal during a playoff game. He shares that story. I mean, I think a lot of the players, I got to know Anson. I know obviously Kevin and I met Wayne Simmons and PK Subban, and I got close. So, I mean, all of these players have faced, racism. They face adversity. There's no question about it. And I think, that was just the course of my filming. But, the young players, told me stories about, there were people who called them the N-word and other things. And they would just, again, they learned through that program to take the high road and to play harder on the ice, because you can't let them win. You can't let people like that, not just get away with it, but the moment that you lose your cool is the moment they've sort of won. They've got to you, right? But if you can beat them at the competitive sport that you're playing with against them, that's the real win.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, I actually play with a few females myself, and they've told me stories before about how it was, they got called some kind of slanderous name, and then they went out and scored a beautiful goal, and then it's like, oh, I'm sorry, what did you say to me earlier? So yeah, that kind of feeling, I'm sure, is fantastic for those boys when that does happen.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to ask you also, Russell Westbrook is actually a name that's attached to this film as an executive producer. How involved was Russell Westbrook with this film?
So Russ came about with us because of our other executive producer, Rob Ford. He, not the infamous Toronto mayor who smoked crack, but Rob Ford, the Los Angeles producer, Emmy award-winning sports producer, Rob Ford. So Rob and I had met many years ago, and he had worked with Russell on his Showtime documentary. And, Russ and his team saw the film. They were really thrilled with it. And we thought that, attaching him would certainly move the needle in terms of, the exposure that we could have with it. And at that point in time, LeBron and Russ were playing with each other. We also talked to LeBron's group. He had already been aligned with another hockey documentary actually called Black Ice. So he wasn't, possible. But, Russ, hey, anybody that loves our film and wants to be part of it is a friend of ours. And it was really cool to see Russ and his team want to be part of it. And yeah, like when we had our premiere and, he was part of the PR blasts and everything. And he's certainly had a revival in his career post LA. So I'm wishing him all the best. And, but Russ, hey, he's one of the future Hall of Famer, and to have him attached to the film is pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, it's very cool. So, we've talked about how I do think this would resonate really well in the St. Louis area. Getting it here would be fantastic. As of right now, I think the best way for people to find it would be on NHL Network. But if in case because we have listeners all over Canada, New York, I know for sure. I think even the Washington area, we get listens. So where can people find it, whether in their region or streaming or whatever the best way is for them to find it?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we should start right here and now and try to get a petition or talk to the Blues about screening the film, maybe in Black History Month or a time that's appropriate for them. So we did actually have some club screenings with the Los Angeles Kings and Washington Capitals. So, it wouldn't be the first time we do that. So, but let's get that going. But yeah, the Cannons is available. If you're in Canada on tsn.ca, it's streaming exclusively there, as well as airing on TSN, which is our ESPN version here in Canada. But it's also airing on Monumental Plus and Monumental in the Washington, D.C. area, on Nesson, which is in the Northeast area, Pittsburgh area, as well as Altitude Plus, which is Colorado region, as well as MSG, which is New York area. So, and again, that's airing on the linear broadcast as well as on their streaming networks. So, and obviously NHL Network, which it's not airing online, but they are airing the film quite frequently. I encourage everyone to just follow us on Insta, the Cannons documentary. We have updates all the time for anything that's happening. And, for us, I think it's, look, I mean, to have 5 broadcasters pick us up in the United States, the major sports network in Canada to pick us up, it really validates the work that we've done and this wonderful story that we were just so honored to tell.
Yeah, and again, it's an excellent story. I think it would resonate well here in St. Louis. I will put a call out right now to the St. Louis Blues and say, let's get this screened here. There are some great names that have been attached to the Blues over the years that would probably be very involved in doing that. Fred Brathwaite, Jamal Mayers, Bryce Salvador all come to mind.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that would be an excellent thing to show people. Ryan Reeves, another big one.
Sure.
Very, very awesome charitable gentleman. So let's do that. I agree. Let's try and get the petition started. Also, for anyone who's kind of interested in learning more, I will say that you do have a podcast out. It's called The Godfather of Hockey, The Making of the Cannons. You can find that, I believe, everywhere on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. So if you're kind of wanting to learn more, hear more about the kind of behind the scenes stuff, I would definitely recommend people check out The Godfather of Hockey. You actually have Coach Neal on that, correct?
We do. Yeah, we've got some really cool guests. We had, Senior Vice President Kim Davis from the NHL, who's in charge of, diversity, inclusivity at the league. So, having some of those guests talk about the film and be part of it, obviously some of the coaches, and it brings different perspective on how we made it. Because as I said, it's a pretty unique way, especially seeing 2 white dudes from Canada flying into Washington, D.C., into this area. We were definitely fish out of water, but really, really amazing to be able to meet these families and tell the story. And there's a story behind the story too, obviously, and that's what the podcast is all about.
So I mentioned the website, The Cannons, and that's with 2 N's. Well, I guess technically 3 N's, but thecannonsdocumentary.com. What about any other kind of social? You mentioned Instagram. If you have any of those handles available, let's go ahead and share them with our audience now.
Yeah, so at the Cannons Documentary on Instagram is our main page. We also have an X Twitter account, The Cannons Documentary. We don't really post there too much. It's usually our Insta page that has the most traction. We've gotten actually some really cool things. And the next screening we're hoping to have is in Washington, D.C. Actually, we were trying to maybe land something at on Capitol Hill. I don't think that's going to pan out, but maybe somewhere else where we can really showcase it with some of the political figures in that city, because a documentary like this, it doesn't even matter when it's made. It's really, it carries a lot of weight and time, because we're trying to have a call to action here. We want action, not just in the Washington area, but any area that is just sort of neglected. These people are good people in these neighborhoods. They deserve the best from not only their from their community, but their government as well. And anyway, so we're certainly people that are waving the flag, and we want the best for these people. And this film, I think, is a catalyst for change and positive change, not just in the sport, but in America at large.
That's and that's what we're all striving for, right? We want equality, we want inclusivity, and I'm a big proponent of the Hockey is for Everyone movement. So this is awesome, right up my alley, and definitely right up the alley of, I know, a lot of people here in the St. Louis area. I wanted to ask you personally before I let you go, Stephen, what else? Do you have anything else in the works right now that we can kind of expect coming from you that's related to hockey documentaries?
Yeah, actually, well, I just dropped a couple documentaries on ESPN Plus, as well as NHL's YouTube channel. It was a history on the NHL trophies. So it's called NHL Trophy Case, and you can find that on YouTube. Literally just Google NHL Trophy Case. And we have 3 episodes that are up there now. A really fascinating look inside the history of each trophy. Each one has their own stories. So I was a writer and producer and editor on those films. So I was really, really thrilled to be part of that. And Tom Cohen directed them. So really something that it was nice to get something with a budget, put it that way.
Yes, that's always helpful. Stephen, really appreciate you taking the time today to talk with us. And again, I know our audience is going to love watching this documentary. It again is called The Cannons, Brothers on Ice. Again, look for it on NHL Network right now, but hopefully we will get this streaming somewhere in St. Louis. Stephen, thank you very much for your time, and best of luck with all the documentaries moving forward.
Appreciate it, Jeff. Thanks for having me, bro.
Yep, thank you. Well, I again want to thank Stephen. Just an incredible interview and just an incredible story. So when I interviewed Stephen, I had not seen it, the documentary, but since then I have watched it, and I watched the director's cut as I was hoping to, and it was amazing, just absolutely amazing, and cannot express enough. People need to see this. I am actually going to reach out to the St. Louis Blues and see if anyone I know is still there, and see if we could possibly get something going here. I would love to have Stephen in town and do what we can to have like a nice premiere for this. And again, if we can get like FanDuel or even just like the Blues YouTube, I don't know what Stephen's preferences are, but if we can get somebody to pick this up to where people in St. Louis can see it. Such an inspiring story, and I know that the Blues fan base will love to see it. And again, not even just hockey fans, people who are just interested in an uplifting story such as this. Next week, it's kind of what I told you last week. Still up in the air on exactly what we're doing, but I know that pretty soon we're going to have an episode with Kurt and Bill. They're wanting to come back on and just kind of, not a whole lot of news has come out over the last couple weeks, but still, a lot of fun just coming on the summer show and talking and having fun. There's also been talks of something we did a couple of years ago. I think we only did it once. Something we called the Men's League Minute, where we literally just sat with guys that I play hockey with, and we just talked about playing beer league. So something possibly in the works for that as well. Might do one of those. Those are always fun. But stay tuned. Again, the plan is to have a show every week, so we'll see if that continues over the summer. Support for Let's Go Blues Radio is brought to you in part by Mike Burgoyne from Real Brokerage Realty. Email him at mike@strikewithmike.com or visit strikewithmike.com today for all of your home buying and selling needs. That'll do it for episode 39 of season 14 of the original St. Louis Blues hockey podcast, Let's Go Blues Radio. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone, and have a great week. For Kurt Price and Bill Day, as well as Steve Hoffner, I'm Jeff Ponder, and I will talk with you next week. This was Let's Go Blues Radio. Until next time, everyone, let's go Blues, and let's go Cannons.
The Chiefs are at home tonight against Cyanosport at the War Memorial at 8. Good seats are still available.
A look at sports.
I think that went very well.
Thank you for listening to Let's Go Blues Radio. Now take off, hosers.
I want you to have a heart attack and die so that we never have to do this shit again.
Well, there's 90 minutes of your life you'll never get back. Sorry.
St. Louis Blues, St. Louis Blues. Have you heard the news about our St. Louis Blues? They've only just begun, they're on their way to number one. Now there's no more blues for our St. Louis Blues. The Blues are on the ice tonight again. They're rough and tough and got the stuff to win. They'll always get one more, no matter what the score. They are quite a hockey team, my friend.